Hey, welcome to another edition of Life Minutes here from Oakridge Community Church. We began last week looking at Jesus' Sermon on the Mountain, found in Matthew chapters 5 through 7. We're going to continue that through the month of January. Last week, we looked at what were called the Beatitudes. These were certain character qualities, characteristics of our life that do not come naturally to us. Jesus began with the blessed is the poor in spirit. A person who is poor in spirit recognizes their need for God in their life. And several of the other things that he mentioned, such as blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. These are qualities that are to be seen in the life of a follower of Jesus. Once we get past the Beatitudes, Jesus then begins teaching about real life situations. He covers everything from marriage to prayer to judging others, and there are several different topics that he tackles. These all are focused on what a follower of Jesus is to live like. You will find often in these chapters the phrase by Jesus, "You have heard." And then he would follow that with a sentence, and then he would say, "But I say to you." The reason he did that was that the religious leaders of Jesus' day would often quote from the Old Testament. They would say something like, "You have heard it said, you shall not murder." And then Jesus, if they were right on something, he would agree to what they said, but then he would say, "But I say unto you." And he was either adding to what the religious leaders had said, or he was correcting some of the misinformation that they had fed to the people. Today, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 26. It deals with the issue of anger. Now, this is what Christ had to say. "You've heard that it was said of old, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says 'you fool' will be liable to the hell of fire." He says, "So if you are offering your gift at the altar and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there and go and be reconciled to your brother." You know as well as I do that anger is an issue with a lot of people. In fact, anger ruins relationships. It hurts businesses. It breaks up families, friendships, teams, and yes, at times, even churches. The reason Jesus did not stop with just the statement, "You have heard it said you shall not murder," was because of this. Many of the religious leaders believed that as long as you did not perform the physical act, for example, killing someone or stealing or committing an immoral like adultery, an immoral act like adultery, as long as you did not commit the act itself, you were not necessarily sinning. And Jesus' point was that even if you did not kill somebody, but you were angry at somebody without cause, that was just as bad as if you were to take a human life. He's not saying that it's okay to murder anybody. He wants us to understand that he's not only dealing with an action, but he was also dealing with the heart of each one of us. And so when it came to the issue of anger, he knew what could happen if someone was angry with someone. Things could be said. Bitterness could become involved in someone's life. And before you know it, things could spiral out of control. So he says that if there is an issue with someone, either we're angry because of the issue or someone we know is angry with us, he puts it on us to take the steps to correct the problem and try to reconcile with the person that may be angry at us or that we are angry with. In fact, there were three things that he said. First, he told us to be sensitive to the situations around us. That's why he said in verse 23 that if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, then we're to leave our gift there. What he means here about being sensitive to situations around us is that we need to be sensitive to God as he's working in our lives, asking him to point out anything that is a problem in our life, a sin, or an issue that we need to deal with. And if he does lay it on our heart that there is tension between someone else, the best that we can, we're to go and try to fix that. So it begins with just encouraging us to be sensitive to the situations around us. And then he said to go and do what we could to make things right. That was the point of leaving your gift at the altar and going and being reconciled. And so we understand this, and I think it's important to point this out also. Some people are offended over everything. And I don't think Jesus has in mind that someone's upset at us because of this kind of Christian music or the kind of music we listen to, even though we might have to be careful in that area. I think what Jesus is talking about is if we know that we have offended someone in a sinful way by something we said or maybe a way we acted towards someone, that we are to go and make that right if we can. We can do nothing about their response. They may not forgive, they may not be interested in trying to make things right, but we are the ones to take the first step. And third, not only that of going, but whatever the issues might be, we need to deal with those. Try to reconcile things, because what you find is if we don't, much like the person who may have had a debt and didn't pay it off and could be thrown into prison, when we have unresolved conflict with people, it's almost like being in an emotional, spiritual prison. So I want to encourage us when it comes to dealing with people, and if we know that there is a problem, either we're angry with someone or they're angry with us, be sensitive to God's work in our life. Go and try to make things right and deal with the issues. Don't just talk around the issues, but get down to what the problem is. It's a show of integrity when we do this. Hey, this is Scott from Oakridge Community Church. Thanks for checking in. Have a good week.